Welcome to the 77th annual meeting of the Henry County REMC. My name is Wayne Jackson, Chairman of the Henry County REMC Board of Directors. I formally declare this meeting called to order. We are here to satisfy the annual meeting requirements of the co-op and to conduct business that is proper to come before the membership. At this time, I would ask you to please join me in another round of applause for the outstanding entertainment of Walker County. At this time, please stand and remain standing for the invocation and the national anthem. Our invocation will be presented by Dr. Philip Rogers, Senior Pastor of the Middletown Church of the Nazarenes, and Walker County's lead singer, Ivy and Stephanie, will lead us in the national anthem.
Thank you, Wayne. On behalf of the Middletown Church of the Nazarene, we'd like to welcome you to our facility. It's an honor and a privilege for us to host the REMC annual meeting this year, and we hope that you've enjoyed your presence here with us. Just in case you don't know, the bathrooms are located just outside the doors back here, the men down the hallway to the right, and the ladies just off of the foyer. And the emergency exits, one of the main ones, are over here to the left. You can also get out over there as well. And we just hope that you'll enjoy your time here this evening. Could we pray, please? Our Father, we just want to thank you for the reminder this evening of what a privilege we are to live in community and to experience the power that comes in cooperation. We thank you, Lord, for what this particular institution stands for, and that it becomes possible through the cooperation of both the customer as well as those who provide the service. We pray, Lord, that you would bless this time together this evening, the fellowship together, all the good times, but also, Lord, the business. And may, Lord, it be done in such a way that everybody is able to grow and learn through it. We pray that you would bless the leadership especially, Lord, and help them as they continue to provide the service that they do to our community, and we give you thanks for that. We pray this all in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Please remain standing.
Dawn's early light, what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Please remain standing as I lead the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I would ask Brian Becker, Secretary of the Board, to present the proof of the mailing of the annual meeting notice and determination of a quorum.
I, Brian Becker, being first duly sworn, state that I am the duly elected qualified Secretary of Henry County Rural Electric Membership Cooperation. On the 4th day of April 2014, I caused to be mailed to each of the members of the cooperative a notice of the annual meeting of the members to be held on the 29th day of April 2014. The notice was deposited with postage prepaid in the United States mail, and I respectfully make this proof of mailing notice and a copy of the notice part of the minutes of these proceedings.
The minutes of the 2013 annual meeting were published on the REMC website and made available at the office of the REMC as advertised in the notice of this meeting mailed to the membership. Copies were also made available here this evening. I trust that you have had a chance to read them, and if you have, is there any corrections, deletions, or additions? I will entertain a motion that the readings of the minutes be suspended and that the minutes be approved as presented. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, the same. At this time, the treasurer of the REMC Board of Directors, Ron Chews, will come and give a financial statement.
Good evening. It's great to see such a large crowd here this evening. I'd like to briefly give you a little bit of financial information from the past couple of years for the co-op. Total revenue for 2012 was $19,160,390. For 2013, in comparison, $19,604,497. Total expenses for 2012 were $18,680,645. Expenses for 2013 were $19,474,641. Utility plant in service for 2012 was $33,002,172. Utility plant in service for 2013 was $33,376,848. Thank you.
At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the new CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Henry County RMC, Mr. Shannon Thomas.
Thank you, Wayne. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'd like to start by introducing a few guests this evening. If you could, try to raise your hand, and we'll try to make sure we pick you out in the crowd. First is a gentleman who served as my mentor for a few days and led Henry County REMC in the absence of a CEO last year, Mr. Dan Arnholt. Is Dan sitting somewhere? There he is. There's Dan. Thanks for all your help. Next, Paul Jamerson with Service Concepts is here. Is Paul in here? He might be still out at his booth. Pam Stigall, representative for the town of Spiceland. From Indiana Statewide Association of REMCs, Darby O'Connor, Tina Bowman, and Dan Hope. And they might still be in the back as well. Representing Hoosier Energy tonight is Dave Sondifer, Walker Energy. Mike Walker. Walker County's got me all screwed up. Mike Walker, Holly Yensel, and Tom Lott, as well as Kim Anderson. Kim Burton from Miami Cass REMC. And Phil is with her, but I don't have Phil's last name. Additionally, we have Mike Burrow, Scott Hyatt, and Phil Hayes representing Nine Star Connect. Thank you all for coming. And last but not least is our guest speaker this evening, Senator Jean Leising. And we'd like to invite Senator Leising up to say a few words and thank her for her, come on up. Thank her for her dedication and service to all of us, but especially to the REMCs in her area. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to your annual meeting. For those of you that aren't familiar with me, 8 townships in Henry County became a part of my Senate district after the 2011 redistricting. So if you live Newcastle and south in Henry County, I'm your state senator. If you live north of Newcastle, then Senator Doug Eckerty from Delaware County is your state senator. I happen to serve on the Senate Utilities Committee and have really enjoyed working with your statewide REMC group, and therefore been very involved in legislation over the last couple years that hopefully helps us to continue to have good electrical service in our many rural areas. My Senate district actually includes all or parts of 7 counties. It goes as far south as Ripley County, the Batesville area, Lake Santee area in Decatur County, Shelbyville, Shelby County, Connersville, Fayette County, Franklin County, the Batesville area as well, and then you guys in Henry County and Olive Rushville. So it's a big geographic area, and before I touch on the electric comments that I want to make tonight, I just want to invite all of you to feel free to bring your groups or families to the State House to tour our great State House in Indianapolis. There are tour guides that can give you great tours of the facility. And if you have kids or grandkids that are between the ages of 12 and 18, they can request to be pages at the State House during our Senate session. And in the 2015 session, we'll be there from the first week in January through the end of April. So all you would need to do is contact my office at the State House, and they will get your kiddos on the list. And I always encourage people to bring another friend or family member with them so that they come in a pair of 2, so that the big building isn't overwhelming for them, that they really enjoy their day. But again, thank you for having me, and I just want to touch a little bit on the magic of electricity. You know, that very thing that we walk into our home tonight when we go back home and we flip the switch and we know the lights are going to come on. You know, most of us are so busy in our lives, working, enjoying our families, and doing all the things that we need to do in life, that we really don't think much about it. We take it for granted that it's going to be there until maybe there's a storm or something where we have a temporary outage. But I think that if you can envision through the years how electricity really came to be, in just doing just a little bit of research for tonight, I found that the Egyptians back in 2750 BC realized that there were fish that were electric fish, and they called them the protectors of all the other fish. So that was the first recorded history of anybody recognizing that there was something electric. But, you know, if you fast forward over 4,000 years later, a fellow by the name of William Gilbert, an English scientist, did a study of electricity and magnetism and actually coined the word electricus. And so he was sort of the first modern day fella to identify electricity. Then fast forward almost 300 years later, and Thomas Edison in 1879 developed a successful lamp with a thinner filament. And within 5 years after Thomas Edison did that, there in his Pearl Street station that he developed, there were 508 customers with over 10,000 what they called lamps or lights. And so that was sort of the burst or beginning of electricity as we know it today. Within 45 years later, by 1930, 70% of the households in the United States had electricity. But guess what? They weren't in our rural areas. They were in our cities. And so 30% of the population in the United States was still in the dark. And then some people in business in our little rural crossroads, and some of our farmers that maybe were a little larger, a little more progressive, had their own Delco plants. There may be some people in this room old enough to at least remember the stories from their parents or grandparents about those plants and how they actually produced their own energy. I know in my family, my father had a retail general store in a crossroads in northern Dearborn County, south of here, and that's how they kept the lights on, was with the Delco plant. My father-in-law had a farm at the edge of Franklin County, and they had a Delco plant because of the farm. But then, in 1935, Franklin Roosevelt signed the Rural Electrification Act, and that's when things changed rapidly for rural Indiana, rural America, period. In fact, electrification, according to the National Academy of Engineering, was considered the greatest engineering achievement of the entire 20th century. And my, how it has changed our world that we live in. This morning, I had a chance to talk to my 5-year-old grandson. I have 3 kids, and I've been blessed with 8 grandchildren between the ages of 2 and 13. And I happened to be with the 5-year-old boy this morning, and he's full of it. He is full of energy himself. And I said, David, tell me, what do you know about electricity? I just need to know. I'm going to talk to some people tonight, and I need to know, what does a guy your age know about it? And he said, well, first of all, Grandma, you got to be very careful, because you could get hurt. You could shock yourself, and you have to be very careful with electric. And I said, well, that's right. And then I said, but what does it do for you? And he said, it does everything. He said, without electricity, we wouldn't have any lights in our house. And he said, our television wouldn't work, and the radio wouldn't work. And he said, the big computers wouldn't work. And, my sister's iPhone wouldn't work because she wouldn't be able to plug it in. It goes dead if she can't plug it in. And he said, our cordless phones in our house wouldn't work because those are plugged in too. He said, don't you know all that? And I said, yeah, but tell me more. And he said, well, our refrigerator wouldn't work, and the freezer wouldn't work, and we wouldn't have ice cubes if it wasn't for electricity. And, our furnace, to keep our house warm, that needs electricity too, and our air conditioning. And he said, well, the microwave, but you know that. And anyway, the list goes on. And I was really actually quite impressed that this little guy knew this, because I was expecting him to look at me like, oh, Grandma, what kind of question is this? And yet he was really aware of it. And I thought, gee, maybe all of us need to be reminded about the importance of electricity in our lives. Our Indiana Statewide Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives is who represents all of the various co-ops through the state. My Senate district actually takes in 6 different electric co-ops, and that's one of the reasons why I have been very involved in the utilities issue. Besides Henry County, a little bit of 9-Star serves the district, the Whitewater Valley, Rush Shelby, Decatur County, southeastern Indiana as well. So I have at least 6 of the co-ops that I work with in some way. Those nonprofit electric distribution utility cooperatives are owned by nearly 500,000 of people like you, members, consumers, and they're governed by a board of directors like these fellas that you elect. And they try their best to provide you and me and all of our families with a good supply, a dependable supply of electricity. There are 2 major generation and transmission cooperatives in our state, Wabash and Hoosier Energy. But I bet none of you have thought about the number of lines that it takes in Indiana for that transmission. It's approximately 58,000 miles of lines. Now that's a lot of lines. And $2.1 billion worth of infrastructure. And Indiana was sort of on the ball in the days when the Rural Electrification Act passed because it passed in 1935, and in 1936, Boone REMC was the first electric cooperative in the United States. I think that if you look at the REMC cooperatives compared to the investor-owned utilities and the municipals, the reality is that approximately 42% of all the lines in the United States that provide electricity are under the control of the REMCs. So it's an awesome responsibility because of the many, many miles they cover to provide us with a stable source of electricity. Now, one of the things that's really important tonight, and I'm going to try to move here quickly because I don't want to bore the heck out of you, but the fuel sources for the electricity that produce our electricity are really receiving a lot of discussion. I don't know if any of you had time to go over and look at the bicycle that was set up out in the lobby. And there was a young man when I was over there by it that was just pumping his heart out on that bicycle and managed to get 6 of the light bulbs to light. But wow, he was really working hard, and that was to light 6 light bulbs. What our major source to produce electricity in Indiana is coal. And coal is under attack by the federal EPA in Washington, D.C. And when I say it's under attack, it truly is. And so as a result, and people, the utility companies have seen this coming, they've been trying to make our coal-fired plants safer and cleaner and more environmentally friendly. But it's still not being achieved at the level that the federal EPA wants. Our use of coal still in Indiana, according to the most recent information I've been able to get from the state, is that in 2012, 77% of the electricity used in Indiana came from coal-fired plants. Now, that compares nationally to only 37% from coal. So guess what's going to happen as these regulations increase? Indiana, in a sense, our energy is going to be under attack because we are sitting on lots and lots of coal. It was very affordable, and it made sense for Indiana to use it as a source of energy for our electricity. Natural gas in Indiana, it has increased. It's doubled in a couple-year period, but it's only 9% of the total source. And in the U.S. nationwide, it's an average of 30%. Nuclear energy has stayed pretty constant. In Indiana, it's 9%, and some of you are probably wondering, where do we have nuclear? Well, I had the chance to tour Cook Nuclear, which provides nuclear power into northern Indiana. It's actually physically located just across the line in Michigan. And so 9% of electricity in Indiana comes from there, but that compares to 19% nationwide. The alternative sources for energy, wind is only a little over 2%, even with all the new turbines. Oil is 1%, and hydro doesn't even come in at 1%. So our sources really, truthfully, are coal, natural gas, and nuclear if we're going to be realistic about how we're going to continue to turn our lights on. Rates in Indiana, average customer rates for 2012, we're considered the 12th lowest out of the 50 states. Industrial rates in Indiana, though, have escalated quite a lot in the last few years. And we are now 24th out of 50 in industrial rates. And you might say, well, gee, do we care? But we do, because major companies that are going to expand or major companies that might want to move in are going to look at those utility rates if they're big energy users. Dependability absolutely continues to improve. I think all of us would agree to that. You know, there's improved transmission lines, more and more improved maintenance, fewer outages for most of us wherever we live. But the great concern that I think all of us have is the affordability of your utility. I know that the various utilities across the state are very concerned. I know that as your senator, I'm very worried about it. The proposed EPA regulations in regard to carbon are really considered excessive and unrealistic. And that's because the requirements that they're advertising now, actually, in order for new plants to be built after January this year, to abide by those new rules, if in fact they go into place, it's going to require technology that does not exist today. And you say, well, how can they do that? Well, they want something called carbon capture and sequestration to occur, where carbon dioxide that happens as a result of the process of producing electricity would be captured and actually taken and hauled and put into what some people have described to me as like caves. But in areas where they've done some piloting with this, they're worried about, wonder if there would be an earthquake. Would then massive amounts of carbon be released? So there's a lot of unanswered questions in that regard. Your state REC is saying that they anticipate that you could experience at least a $50 per month increase in your utility bill in the next couple years if these things go into place. So the reason I'm telling you this tonight is not to depress you, but to say we are all going to have to try to deal with this, and what can we do to maybe stop it from happening? I would tell you that Senator Dan Coates, in the last week or so, has contacted the EPA Administrator, Gina McCarthy, and said, if your EPA is doing listening tours across the states, why are you not coming to Indiana when you know we have a high dependence on coal for our energy? I don't know that he's gotten a response back. But one of the things that each of you could do tonight or tomorrow, if you have internet access, and if you don't have internet access, I bet you one of your kids or grandkids do, you could contact the EPA, send them a message, asking them to reconsider the new carbon regulations. You have until May 9th of this year to comment on those regulations. Now, in order to connect with them, according to your statewide REMC, the easiest way would be to go to www.action.coop. So it's easy to remember, just the normal www. And then action, ACTION, .coop. And please send a message. Think of just each of you tonight would send a message. I read something that said that over 20,000 comments had been made. But if all of you sent one comment, we could add 1,000 tonight by your action, and maybe it would make someone in Washington at the EPA understand that they have to go more slowly at this, that we can continue to do whatever we can to clean up the process, but that we can't do things that technology is not there to allow us to do. You know, I think that it's sad in a way that carbon dioxide, which is a odorless, colorless gas that we all provide when we exhale, that in 2007, our U.S. Supreme Court classified it as a pollutant. So, as a result, that gives the EPA the opportunity to do what they're doing with regulations. I would tell you that other countries are not doing near what we are doing. It's my understanding that China right now is emitting triple the carbon that we are. So we're not going to solve all the problems in the world, but we could cause a lot of good people in Indiana and across this nation a real hardship by really escalating the cost of their electric bills. In addition, for people in Indiana whose lives and livelihood depend on coal mining, whatever other things doing to deal with coal, they're estimating it could mean 29,000 jobs that would be lost. So it's a very big deal. There are some other regulations that are out there pending as well from the EPA, but I don't want to worry you with those tonight. If you can just do the one thing, and that is contact the EPA by going to www.action.coop and letting the EPA, in a nice way, say, please slow down the carbon regulation. You could really maybe make a big difference to not just people in Indiana, but people across our nation. So thank you so much for having me tonight, and I hope that when there's other issues that come up that impact you or Henry County, that you will feel comfortable contacting me at the State House. There's an 800 number, there's the websites, always feel free. And don't worry if you're in, my townships or Senator Eckerty's, because when they divide your county and you have 2 senators, you ought to contact both of us if it's something important, and maybe we can do double good for you. So thank you so much for having me, and what a nice evening for all of you.
Thank you very much, Gene. We really appreciate you being here and all of your support for the rural electric cooperatives in Indiana. I'm going to take a minute to recognize 2 people that I forgot. Luckily, one of them was not my wife. Corey Murphy from the Henry County Economic Development Commission is here with us tonight, and he might have already scooted, I don't know. And then also Ron Arnholt, one of the directors, there's Ron, for Bartholomew County REMC, and also one of the officers for the Indiana Statewide Association of RECs. So, next, we would like to tell you a little bit about Operation Roundup, and I'd like to bring up the Operation Roundup Chairman of the Board, Mr. James Wenning.
Thank you, Shannon. First off, I want to start out with your pennies are making a difference. It has been amazing with everybody's pennies coming in, the amount of money we've been able to raise through this organization to use towards this Operation Roundup. This is not a new idea. Operation Roundup have been around. Several other co-ops, as I understand, have been doing this for some time. I thank the Board of Directors for finally coming forth and putting this program together. They announced the program would start in January of 2013. They did not begin collecting money until August of 2013. So in that time, we've raised over $32,000 roughly, I do believe. Yeah, $36,000, I'm sorry. We meet, there's a board that was chosen by the Board of Directors. There's 5 people total on this board. I'd like to introduce my fellow board members at this time, if they would stand real quick. We have Dennis Crum. There he is. Becky McGrady, Janet Sparks, and Sally Howard. So we have been meeting 3 or 4 times so far getting started. Our intentions are to meet quarterly. The way the program works is groups around the county, or within our service area, I should say, can make applications. And we have given to several groups already at this point. And I think there's a list right now of the different groups we've given, from food banks to a couple of post-prom committees that put on parties for their school after the prom, also a fire company. We contributed to the United Fund to be used towards their Day of Caring, to buy supplies and things like that. Not every group that has applied for money has received money. We're trying to be very careful with the money as it comes in, because it is your money, it's our money also. So we want to make sure that it's money that's used wisely and helps a large group of people out. If you'll watch your newsletter that you get each month, they will continue as we do contributions. That will be in the newsletter, so you'll be able to keep track of what groups and organizations that we are contributing to. So with that, thank you, and it's a good program.
I'd like to say thank you to all of the board members from the Operation Roundup program. They've done an excellent job being very selective in the dollars where they go and to help the people that really need it. At this time, I would like to introduce the 12 directors of Henry County REMC. If you guys could please stand when I call your name. Representing District 1, Brian Becker. Representing District 2, Don Shaw. Representing District 3, Gerald Shelton. District 4, Don Cross. District 5, Wayne Jester. District 6, Ron Thompson. District 7, Ron Chu. District 8, Randy Malloy. District 9, Don Sloan. District 10, Shane Young. District 11, Larry Brayton. And District 12, Wayne Jackson. Also tonight with us is our legal counsel, Mr. Martin Shields. I'd like to extend a special thank you to the folks that really made this all happen. All the folks in the green shirts that you saw here tonight. Some of them say volunteers on the back. Some of them are relatives and children of our employees. Some of them are representatives of the church. But our employees at Henry County REMC are a wonderful group of individuals. They are the ones responsible for taking care of you here tonight and also taking care of you every day as your electricity needs arise. So if we could please give a large round of applause to those employees and volunteers. I'd also like to mention that when the power goes out, these folks are the ones that come to work, and they are leaving people at home every day to fend for themselves. So our employees come to work every day. Their spouses and their families are left at home, as well as the spouses and families of these gentlemen on stage when they are called to do the duty of the REMC on a monthly, weekly, or even more often. There's all kinds of work that has to be done. And the folks at home, the spouses and the families, I'd really like to thank all of them. As you can see, we have some awards up here on stage, and we have a couple of very special ones. We would like to recognize for their dedicated service, 2 directors and an employee. For representing District 6, Ron Thompson has provided you with 30 years of service. He was first elected to the Board of Directors in 1984. Please give a big round of applause to Ron Thompson. Second, representing District 5, Wayne Jester has provided you with 10 years of service, first elected to the board in 2004. And last, representing one of the employees, and I don't see him yet, maybe he's back there, maybe he's not. Jason Burton has been with the co-op since 2004. And he's the guy that makes sure the material is available and also helps work with the guys out in the field. Okay, as you're all aware, we do award scholarships annually. We award $500 scholarships, 4 of them, and we would like to recognize those winners here this evening. If Wayne could come up and help me out. We have, representing Newcastle High School, Kendra Brammer. I'm going to add to that, and we've got a little extra special envelope there for Kendra that, courtesy of the Operation Roundup Board, the Operation Roundup Board decided to donate some dollars back and make all of these $500 scholarships $750. The next scholarship is for Adrienne Trenopole of Shenandoah High School. And next is Michael Froage of Newcastle High School. Here he comes. And we'll get the next one headed up here to Timothy Welch II from Newcastle High School. All these students did a terrific job, had amazing grades and all kinds of community involvement. They should, these are our leaders of the future. With that, I'd like to bring up Wayne Jackson to give the director's report, chairman's report.
It's great to see such a nice turnout for this meeting. This year's annual meeting is quite different than last year's. The Board of Directors made the decision to change the format of the annual meeting to try to get more of our members involved. We had to change the location to provide for the changes in this meeting for such a large crowd, and we're so happy to see this crowd. And it's always a pleasure for the board members to be able to see the membership and to hear what's on their minds. This year, the past year, 2013 had many challenges for your board of directors. At this time, I'd like to tell you of some of them. First, at last year's annual meeting, we announced that our CEO, Steve Warfram, was leaving us to take a position with Chillicothe Electric Cooperative in the Panhandle of Florida. The search for a new CEO was a tremendous experience and challenge. We did have great support from Jennifer Burfordo of the Indiana Statewide Association and Mr. Dan Onhart, who served as our interim CEO at that time. Many thanks to them for their assistance in our search. We did receive over 25 resumes for this position. The board narrowed it down to 5 candidates. At that time, we interviewed the 5 candidates and made the decision to hire Mr. Shannon Tongs. Shannon was previously employed by Hancock Wood Electric Cooperative for the past 16 years, most recently as Vice President of Technology. The board felt that the knowledge that Shannon had in technology would be a great addition to the Henry County REMC. We are very pleased to have Shannon on board as our Chief Executive Officer. Second, last year we started to retire capital credits to estates. The board did receive a lot of information and help from our auditor and the staff on this issue. We were able to retire over $250,000 in capital credits, and we have included in the 2014 budget to continue the retirement of capital credits to estates and to the general retirement. Third, the board of directors also are committed to continue to improve service to you, the members. We will increase the amount of rebuilding lines. We have many lines out there that are over 50 years of age. Along with line construction, we are increasing vegetation control by spraying and the tree trimming. In 2013, we changed our computer software to help improve service to you, our members. We received some members concerned about the closure of the drive-up window. The board agreed to reopen it. We do want you to know that we do listen to your concerns and want to give you the best service we can. Last, I will try to address the issue of the increase in the monthly consumer charge. This was a difficult decision for the board, as it affects not only you, but all of us, our loved ones, friends, and neighbors. To be able to supply the membership with dependable electric service, we have to continue to improve reliability, building lines, and controlling vegetation growth. Our cost to do this has taken a tremendous increase in the past few years. To be fair to our membership, the board of directors felt the cost of this should be shared equally by all members through the increase in the monthly service charge. That concludes the report that I have, and at this time I'll turn the podium back over to Shannon to give his management report.
Thank you, Wayne. I'd like to start by telling you guys that I sat in the crew room with the line crew yesterday afternoon, and one of the guys says, "How long is this meeting going to last?" And another one said, "That depends on how many stories Shannon's going to tell while he's up there." And my wife is over here prepared to give me the high sign or call me on my phone or something and let me know when we're past 9 o'clock. So, just kidding. I'd like to start by saying thank you very much to the board of directors, and thank you to all of you for having me here. It has been a great honor for me to come here to be the CEO of this cooperative, and it is also, I would be foolish if I did not thank my wife, and my wife Sherry, sitting right up here in the corner. Put your hand up in the air and go like this. There you go. Thank you, honey. Moving from Ohio to Indiana was something that we thought long and hard about. It wasn't too far from where we were. I was from Northwest Ohio, so 2.5, 3 hour drive got us here. I didn't have to move her all the way out to the West Coast or anything to be able to do this. So thank you very much, Sherry. I really appreciate everything. And I also wanted to mention that the acceptance of the employees for me coming here is something that is tremendous. The culture of the employees at Henry County REMC is wonderful. They are a great group of people. They have accepted me as one of their own, and we have a good time every day getting the work done that needs to get done. So thank you very much, guys. I'd like to talk just a little bit about the mission statement. This was presented to you guys last year. And there are a couple of really key components in there that were developed by your board of directors, and they are completely on target for what this co-op represents and what needs to be here to lead us into the future. Reliability, safety, cost competitive. We want to enhance the lives of the members and the communities that we serve. Those things are a baseline for what we need to do, and that's what we're going to live by from the time they started till the time it's changed again. I'd like to expand a little bit on what Wayne talked about with the increase in the consumer charge. There is a ton of information on the screen there, and I won't read through it all, but what I wanted to let you know is the cost of a mile of line goes up every year. What it costs to build that mile of line goes up. Indianapolis Power and Light have 60 consumers across that mile of line, so they can divide that cost amongst that 60 consumers. Duke Energy has 38. Henry County REMC has 7. So that same cost has to be spread amongst the 7 individuals connected to that same miles of line. So it's only fair to spread those increased costs to all of the individuals that use that power. The other thing I want to mention real quick is that the consumer charge is the basic part of your bill that does not change regardless of how many kilowatt hours you use. So if you have a meter out there that's not using any kilowatt hours, it is not as cost effective and is not representing your share of the cost of that mile of line. Adding that cost to the consumer charge made sure that everybody was paying fairly. Next, I'd like to jump over to Team Up to Save. We've talked to you a little bit about what the EPA is doing, and now we're going to show you a little bit about what you can do to kind of cut back on electricity.
Means to you. From the kickstart you get from that morning cup of coffee and buttered toast, to popcorn and movie night with the family, and everything in between, electricity provides daily comfort and convenience, and powers our busy lives. And the cost of electricity remains a solid bargain. Since 1936, while the price of a loaf of bread to make that toast is 18 times higher, and a pound of coffee is 50 times higher, the cost of electricity has only doubled. We know your household expenses are important, especially utilities. Your electric cooperative wants you to know that we can all work together and team up to save. As a co-op, we're owned by you, our consumers, and our rates are set to cover costs, not to generate profits for stockholders. While electricity prices are relatively stable today, cost pressures in the electric utility industry remain. The State Utility Forecasting Group at Purdue University is projecting that electricity rates will rise nearly a third over the next 10 years. The increase is being driven by new federal regulations on power plants that use coal, the fuel for more than 90% of Indiana's electricity. In a time of regulatory uncertainty, your electric cooperative stands with others in supporting policies that promote an affordable, reliable supply of electricity. The Environmental Protection Agency has proposed strict limits on carbon dioxide from future power plants and announced plans to change rules for existing generating facilities. These policies would further raise the cost of power and limit future options. To lessen the impact of those expenses, the Power Supply Cooperative has been working to manage costs and improve efficiency. Cooperatives are united in supporting a national approach that takes into account an all-of-the-above energy mix that allows for all possible power supply options. Using electricity wisely is another way we can all help each other by eliminating the need to build expensive new generating plants. And it can be as easy as remembering to turn off a light. There are many ways you can make your home or business more energy efficient. Contact a member services representative at your co-op to find out how. Or visit our website at teamuptosave.com to view a menu of energy-saving options available from your cooperative. Here's a look at a number of Team Up programs. The Heating and Cooling, or HVAC system, is the largest user of residential energy, making up as much as 60% of a home's annual energy cost. Homes heated by baseboards or electric furnaces face higher costs compared to those with efficient heat pumps and geothermal systems. We know it can be costly up front to add a more modern and efficient system. That's why participating cooperatives offer rebates on high-efficiency heating and cooling options. Rebates range from $300 to $2,200, depending on the type of equipment you plan to replace. Single-family homes are eligible for rebates and most other team-up efficiency programs. Every day, demand for electricity rises and falls depending on how much power homes and businesses are using, especially on cold winter mornings and hot summer afternoons. These peaks in demand create the most expensive times to produce and use electricity. That's why the energy management savings switch option was implemented.
We're having some technical difficulties. Why don't we just go ahead and jump to the next slide? There we go. Sorry, guys. I didn't do that yesterday. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about improving customer service. When I first arrived here last year, we were getting some comments from some folks on Facebook and some of the social media, as well as letters into the office and phone calls. And we've addressed those and made some updates, and as Wayne mentioned, we opened up the drive-up window, and one of the problems that we were faced with when we first got here was after-hours calls were not being answered or weren't being answered in a timely fashion. We were getting busy signals, and it was a problem. So to address that, we've done a couple of things. We've increased our call volume by contracting our after-hours calls out to Cooperative Response Center. That is a cooperative owned, so Henry County REMC is now part owner of Cooperative Response Center. They have 3 call center facilities, one in Minnesota, one in Tennessee, and one in Texas. So depending on what's going on in the country, you might get hello you all on the phone, and pay no attention to it, they'll still take care of you. I'd also mention the automated pay system that we put in. You can now pay your bill on the phone without talking to anybody by punching in your account number or your phone number, and also the amount, credit card, and as well as paying online off the HCREMC website using the Smart Hub. Next, I'd like to talk to you about the polar vortex. Everybody was frozen solid back in January. That's just a brief overview, and I'm sure you all got some pretty healthy bills in February. There was a lot of energy used in the month of January and February, and there was a ton of demand put onto the generation and transmission systems. We did have some outages, and those right there are the folks that came in and worked for 2 days straight. Some of them spending the night at the co-op, can only work for so long, get a rest, and then go back out and do it again. That is the operations department, and those guys did a tremendous job back in early January to get the lights back on in sub-zero temperatures. One of the things I wanted to mention was we reached the maximum generation capacity here in Indiana during that time frame. Everything that could be generated was generated, and they called for the natural gas plants to run, and they couldn't. The reason they couldn't is because all of the natural gas was diverted to Chicago for home heat. So there is no coordination between the gas pipelines and the independent system operator that maintains the electric grid in Indiana. That was almost rolling blackouts for a lot of Indiana. The only thing that kept that from happening was the ramp up of the generation, coal generation, by Hoosier Energy. Hoosier Energy's 2 coal plants ran at maximum capacity for those time periods and kept the lights on for all of Hoosier Energy customers. They did a great job. If we could back up one slide one more time. I want to mention also the peak demand. We did set a peak demand, and I don't know how many of you understand peak demand, but peak demand is measured by how much energy you are demanding from the grid. And you are billed for that total amount for the month. And so the higher that demand is for the month, the higher your power bill is going to be. We pay a peak demand charge to Hoosier Energy for all of your combined use. We increased our demand in 2013 by 6%, but only increased the kilowatt hour usage by 2%. That tells me we're using a lot more electricity on demand than constantly. So the charge for demand has gone up. Okay, please go on to the next slide. There's a lot up there, and we've talked a little bit about it. And this is an article from January from Forbes magazine showing that the EPA is declaring war on coal plants. And I won't read all of that, but Senator Leising mentioned that the action.coop stuff is there. I'm going to show you a video here that is from the congressional hearings when they questioned one of the experts about the coal carbon capture. If you could go ahead and run that video. We were so close. Back up and try it again. Okay, we're going to wing it. I apologize for that. That video is available to you at action.coop. If you get a chance to watch it, please do so. It is basically telling you that with the costs of what the EPA is mandating for the generation and transmission cooperatives or all of them to put on. It's going to at least increase your cost by 50%, at least, and maybe more, depending on how much has to happen. This slide here shows you that Hoosier Energy, since 2004, has spent approximately $400 million retrofitting their equipment to decrease the emissions from the coal plants. You can see in 2004 the emissions, it's kind of hard to see up there, it's not too bad over there. NOx emissions, SO2 emissions, and CO2 emissions have all declined significantly over that 10-year period. So the amount of investment that we have put in has made cleaner air and better emissions out of those coal plants, and I thought that was a good representation to let you guys see the efforts that were made, the $400 million, and then the results. Next, we'd like to talk about this is a quick video from Action.coop on the all of the above strategy.
Electric cooperatives are deeply concerned about maintaining affordable, reliable electricity. The administration has abandoned its all of the above energy strategy. They now embrace an all but one approach that restricts the future use of coal to generate power. But together we can turn this around. Visit Action.coop and stand with the millions of electric co-op members who are concerned about keeping their electric bills affordable. Let your voice be heard and urge the EPA to abandon its all but one approach. It's as easy as providing your name, address, and co-op. You can even customize your message to tell them how these rules would affect you personally. Your message will be sent along with those of other concerned Americans. Together, we can tell the EPA to work with electric co-ops on a common-sense solution that balances energy needs and environmental concerns. So go ahead and visit Action.coop today.
That gives you a quick look at what we're asking for. And the next part here is something that I would like to introduce you to. For a long time, I have been a member of ACRE. ACRE is the Action Committee for Rural Electrification. It is what's referred to as a PAC, Political Action Committee, and it is designed to be able to provide dollars to those running for office that support the rural electric cooperatives' efforts, very much like Senator Lising. So we've told you what we would like you to do and register on Action.coop to tell the EPA, but it's really the folks at the State House and at the national level, Capitol Hill, and even as far up to the president that are the ones that can change what these departmental agencies are doing. Co-op for Political Action, Co-op Owners for Political Action is a new program that is available to you as members to be able to join an organization that is promoting the individuals that support the rural electric cooperatives of this country. There's a video for that as well.
What's so special about electric cooperatives? Well, unlike for-profit utility companies, electric cooperatives are owned by the consumers they serve. We're deeply involved in our communities, and we play a vital role in our nation's economy. We're a network of over 42 million consumers across 47 states who all have a voice in how things get done. But policies that affect America's electric co-ops aren't just made at the local level. Every day in Washington, D.C., policies are being decided that could affect you directly. So how do you make sure your voice is heard? The answer? ACRE. ACRE is the Political Action Committee, or PAC for short, for electric co-ops. You may have heard the word PAC, but you may not know what that means. A PAC such as ACRE is a group of people who come together to support political candidates who support their interests. ACRE isn't about parties or partisan issues. It's about supporting political candidates, regardless of party affiliation, who speak for and protect the interests of electric cooperatives. Here's how it works. Consumer owners and co-op employees and directors make personal contributions to ACRE. Then ACRE considers which political candidates to support. Before any support is given, ACRE works closely with our state associations to determine which candidates are aligned with electric co-op values. ACRE makes contributions to candidates running for the U.S. House and Senate. And after elections, our political team works to educate elected officials on the issues that matter most to America's electric cooperatives. Right now, ACRE has over 30,000 members, but imagine the impact we can have on the issues that make a difference to us, our families, and our communities if all 42 million of us contribute and speak as one voice. Co-ops provide safe, reliable, affordable power to our schools, homes, and businesses. But we do a lot more than that. We provide employment to over 70,000 people. We promote community development and revitalization projects, water and sewer improvements, small business and job creation, and disaster relief. As a member of ACRE, you can help make a difference on the issues that matter most. Join ACRE today and let your voice be heard.
We've got some ability to sign up out there for ACRE if you would like to take opportunity to do that. We will make it easy for you to do so and have a small amount charged to your electric bill every month. So if you'd like more information on that after the meeting, there will be some out in the lobby. At this time, that concludes my management report, and Wayne and I would be happy to answer any questions that y'all might have. And raise your hand if you would. And we'll get a mic to you. Can I get a couple of employees to get some microphones? Yeah, we're going to get a mic to her back there. Thank you, Debbie. There, she's got it.
Hi, I think I have two parts to my question. It sounded like I heard you say that our electric rates, if Obama succeeds and he's able to close our coal plants, that we could see our bills go up by 50%. I've heard on the radio people, supposed experts, say that they could double. Also, the other part is, you're saying to contact the EPA. Should we also be contacting our representatives in the Senate and in the House of Representatives and maybe tell them to defund the EPA, put pressure on the EPA? Because it seems that Obama's agenda is to hurt Indiana, to drive business from Indiana, and to hurt the middle class. I don't think any of us could handle a doubling in our electric bills.
It certainly could make it to that point. Doubling of the electric bills could be a possibility. One of the things that the EPA is asking to happen is carbon sequestration. It's been developed on a very small scale in testing, nowhere near on the scale of what it would take to capture the carbon from a power plant. That technology doesn't exist today. Nobody knows what it will cost to develop that technology. Everything is pure speculation. So 50% is a rough estimate. It could be a 100% increase in your electric bill. And you're right, nobody can afford that. That's why we are here asking you guys today to take action to protect your affordable electricity. In regards to contacting your representatives, absolutely. That's what that ACRE program is for. The Co-op Owners for Political Action allows us to speak as one voice as owners of the co-ops of this country and speak to the representatives in Washington and tell them that we can't handle this. This is not right. We need your help to do that. As far as defunding the EPA, that's going to be up to the elected officials to decide what they can and cannot do with that. I was smart enough not to run for office myself, so I wouldn't want the headaches that go with that. But if that's something that you would like to see, certainly tell your representatives that. Absolutely. Other questions?
Yes, sir. I have a question on this acre you were talking about. How do the contributors have an input as to the candidates that you would support? How do you determine what candidates would be most likely to support REMC values? How are we supposed to be able to influence that? Or if we disagree with you, how do we change that?
You're gonna. That's a good question. The candidates are selected because they represent us on issues that are important to us. And you're gonna run into an option where you have a candidate that is completely opposite to what you think on a completely different issue. It's gonna happen. But the ACRE group on the statewide level and on the national level select candidates that support the electric cooperative values. Are they going to represent all of your values? Probably not. I doubt you'll find any candidate that will represent 100% of your values. I know I have not. But they're going to support the rural electric cooperative values that are important to this group today. Other questions?
Is it feasible for REMCs over the nation to take some sort of legal action to prevent the EPA from doing this?
Not only is it feasible, I think it's likely that any mandate that is impossible will be headed to court, yes. We'll have no choice. When you're asked of the impossible and mandated to do it, it will likely go to court, yes. In the middle right here, Debbie.
I've heard it reported on the East Coast they're going to be shutting down their coal plants in the next 2 years. Will that draw from our grid supplied by Indiana to go out and take care of their loss? Because they have nothing, from what I understand, to come in and replace their coal plants at this time. And they are going to shut theirs down.
Yeah, some of them have no choice but to shut down, or the EPA will shut them down. Could they draw on our generation here? Chances are probably not. The transmission grid is divided in this country. The central part of the country, 11 states are represented by MISO, the Midwest Independent System Operators. That is where we fall. Out on the East Coast, it's PJM. PJM is the transmission operator for Ohio East. And so could we have issues? Yes, the entire grid is interconnected. And there's a lot of discussion about should as a generating facility like Hoosier Energy, should they renew contracts and sell their power, or should they keep it for themselves, for the members that are sitting in this room? So there's a lot of discussion of that. And as more power plants shut down, I think you'll see a lot more discussion about that. Could it get to that point where we're providing power to the East Coast from here in Indiana? If they shut down all those coal plants and we're allowed to keep running them here, I suppose it could happen, yes.
My question is in regard to us folks here in Henry County. We've got this $25 a month consumer charge per, family, which I'm not complaining about the consumer charge on my house. I think that's an equitable solution. But I've got a little barn behind the house that has its own meter with 2 light bulbs. I think $25 a month is excessive charging just to have a meter down there. That when we did have folks who read the meter, they only went down there a couple times a year anyway.
You want to address it here? Okay. We know that's a very sensitive issue, and I guess I would like to address it like this. It takes the same amount of line and the same amount of service cable, the same meter base, to provide electricity to that little shed that it does to provide electricity to your house. So the share of that mile of line, the cost of that mile of line is the same. I'm sorry? Well, if we divided it just amongst your house, we talked about this in great depth in the boardroom, and there was discussion about should a second meter be able to have a reduced charge, and especially if it's on the same transformer. And what we found is some are on the same transformer. Some of y'all's little barns out back are on your neighbor's transformer. So should he get the discount because your barn's on that? It gets very complex. And if we did that, it would have had to be a higher increase in the house charge and a lower increase on the second meter, and we would have had to try to find a way to determine which ones were the second meters and if they were all in the same transformer. It became very complex, and I understand it's difficult. I have a meter on my house and a meter on the barn as well, and it's hitting everybody up here on this stage in exactly the same way. The only fair way that we could come to do it was to put it across every meter. We talked about, should we add it to the kilowatt hour charge? Then your house would pay for it because the cost per kilowatt hour would increase. And it depended on the house. If your house used 1,200 kilowatt hours for a month, like the average consumer does, then you're going to be right at about that same dollar amount. But if your house uses 3,500 kilowatt hours a month, you're going to pay more for the neighbor who has the shed that isn't using any kilowatt hours. There was really no easy way to distinguish who all has what and what that should be, other than to keep the facility consumer charge the same on every meter throughout the whole system. So I know it's not what you want to hear, but that's the answer to your question. And we did the best we could. I think you're going to see more facility charge increases around the state. Some are already higher than us. You've seen how much the cost of electricity, in that video showed you the cost of electricity has doubled since 1937. Well, what costs have only doubled since 1937? Not much. And that includes, your average cost of electricity is between 10.5 and 11 cents right now, including the consumer charge. It was 5 cents in 1937. That's not much. Not when a loaf of bread was a nickel back then and it's $2 now. It's a very difficult thing, but like I said, it still takes the same amount of line, service entrance cable, and the same amount of maintenance for all those miles of line to provide the power to that shed that only has 2 lights in it as it does to provide it for the meter that has the house on it. So, other questions? Up front here?
What are we gonna do if that thing you showed on the polar
Polar
scenario?
vortex.
If it happened to be, you know, I was thinking, you know, about the fact of, what if my electricity went out altogether? What am I gonna do?
During that polar vortex? Yep. That's a good question, and that's something that we want to avoid. That's one of the reasons why we are rebuilding more line. We're increasing the amount of line we're rebuilding. We built 10 miles of line last year. We're building 30 miles this year. Okay. I understand where you're coming from. There's a lot of people in that same position. What are we going to do if the power's out and it's 40 degrees below zero? You're going to have to take care of yourself. It's our job to try and improve reliability and make sure that that power stays on for you. That's what we're trying to do. If the power goes out, we're going to do our darndest to make sure it comes back on. And that picture of those individuals that I showed you that worked for 2 days, they made sure that the power that was out during that polar vortex was back on in a pretty short time frame. We were very fortunate. Our guys worked around the clock to. Okay. If you don't have power, you might have to go to somewhere where there is power. Is all I can. You want to take a shot at it, Wayne?
I think you're talking about the demand, the high demand during the polar vortex. Is that what you're talking about?
If the plants shut down?
Well,
it'll be anarchy. You know, all we can do is as best prepared for you as we possibly can so that that doesn't happen. What you'd have to do when that happens would be completely up to you, sir. Ma'am? Yeah. The question is, what are folks that would like use a breathing machine, life support type folks, in the event of a power outage? First, I would recommend if anybody has that situation, make sure you have a battery backup, and I would strongly recommend a generator to make sure that that happens. You do not want to be without life support if you have a breathing machine. We will do our best. If you have that situation, you will be marked in our system as a priority restore. So anybody that is on life support, we will try to get somebody there before getting other folks on. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Sir.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
I don't see you.
The question is, when this lady asked about a shed which has a meter on it, why don't you tell her to run from her house to the shed and take that meter out? Why didn't you tell her that she could do that? Why don't you tell people that there are ways to get around your expenses that you would like to add on?
We would be happy to get you in touch with someone that can help you with that. There are electricians that are very qualified in this county that will run underground or overhead, whatever you need, from your existing meter at your house out to the shed or the barn or the garage and make that happen. That can be done, absolutely, sir. Thank you for bringing it up. And that would save you $25 on your bill or $35 on your bill. Sir?
Yes, you're talking about building up another 30 miles of line, and I appreciate all you guys have done for us. But what about Hoosier Electric and some of the others? Are they building their lines up where they're losing up to 30% because their lines are not efficient?
They are building. Hoosier Energy has a very aggressive rebuild plan. We could harass one of them into coming up here and tell you about it if we wanted to, but I sit down there during those board meetings. Mr. Don Cross is our representative on the Hoosier Energy Board, and their programs are brought before a full board of directors for approval, and they are doing everything they need to do to improve reliability and maintain the lines, the generation and transmission both. So not only are they improving the coal plants, the gas plants, investing in renewable energy, but they are also maintaining the transmission grid that provides the energy to the substations here in Henry County and the surrounding counties that provide all of you with power. So yes is the answer to your question. There was another one up in here. There you go.
It was the same thing this gentleman said on this extra meter. They ought to put something out in writing, share with the people
that can be done?
It can be done, and
sure.
And then what really bothers me, if everybody would do it, then we're going to have to raise the rates. It's like you got us doing these little squirrely lights, and then if everybody saves and saves and saves, then that gives you less and less money. So we're fighting a losing battle.
Well, it costs.
Why don't you just tell us to use more and more electricity, and you'll have more and more money.
Well, you're right. In a sense, you're right. We're one of the few industries that ask our consumers to conserve. Don't use as much. We're trying to conserve to be better on the costs for you, and then also on the environment. If I would be more than happy to draft a letter and send it out to everybody that's got a second meter that says, here is a list of electricians that you can contact to have those services put in with your 1 meter. From our standpoint, that is great. If they want to do that, that is fantastic. Could that happen? There are some cases where it's going to cost a fortune to make that happen. Nobody's going to run, a mile of line out to their barn across a field. It's just not going to happen. But for those little sheds out back or the garage, it can happen, and I'm more than happy to do that. You're right, though. Instead of being 7 meters per mile, we could go down to 6, and then those costs have to be spread again. The bottom line is it still costs the same amount of money to maintain every mile of line and to rebuild those miles of line to keep the reliability and the lights on for you guys. So. Other questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Okay.
A year ago, a friend of ours told us about Sherlock Holmes and the insulation program that was through REMC.
Right.
And because of that, they found extensive mold under our house.
Okay.
We had to have it repaired, and then they came back and did a wonderful job.
Okay.
They were there for 2 days, extremely sufficient, very kind. They even found a small leak in our sewer system under the house and even tried to help repair it, but they didn't get it done, but we got it done that day. I am so thankful because they did this, that I know our heat bill, our electric bill would have been tremendous this winter if it had not been done. And I say kudos. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Right here in front.
I'm digging up a dinosaur, but Marble Hill, it was supposed to have been atomic energy. We wouldn't be burning coal today.
I think you're absolutely right. There was plenty of opportunities to build lots of nuclear plants, but nobody wanted it built in their backyard.
I also just have a comment. I am new to Henry County in the last year. I have a family of 5. I came from a surrounding county with all efficient house, and I'd have to say, even with the Volar, whatever you want to call
vortex,
it,
yeah.
my electricity bill has been the cheapest that it has ever been in the state of Indiana. And not only that, I never had one outage, and I work from home, same with my husband, and I want to thank you for the great job that you are doing for us
Thank you very
consumers.
much. Thank you.
I'm just curious, are there any proposals in Congress at both the state and federal level that are trying to limit these regulations from the EPA?
The question is, are there any proposals in Congress, state level or the national level, to prevent the EPA from doing what they're doing? It's a conversation that is happening. It's going to have to be at the national level. Because it's the federal EPA that is pushing these mandates. I know that they are happening. I am actually leaving for Washington, D.C. on Sunday to participate in the legislative conference that is sponsored by the National Rural Electric Cooperatives Association to represent Indiana and show the legislatures up on Capitol Hill what they're doing to us here in the middle of this country. So I'm going to be up there for a few days to let them know. So there are conversations happening. Is there actual legislation proposed yet? I can't say that there is, but ask me again next week. Any others? Oh, we got a couple.
Has the co-op considered wind turbines?
Has the co-op considered what?
Wind turbines?
Wind turbines. Hoosier Energy, we have a all power requirements agreement with Hoosier Energy. So any power that we buy comes from Hoosier Energy. Hoosier Energy has invested in wind turbines and has a portion of their power portfolio from renewable energy, including solar panels, wind turbines. You just don't see them here, but we do get a portion of your power from wind turbines, yeah. And there's opportunities for more. There's opportunities for more solar panels as well, and that's the conversation that we have with Hoosier Energy on a regular basis. There was another question back here.
They keep fighting our coal-powered plants and all of this. What are they going to do with all this nuclear waste when they get a nuclear plant? They haven't figured out what in the world to do with that stuff.
That's part of the problem. They don't know what to do with that, and nobody knows what to do with the CO2 emissions either. I wish I could answer that, but I can't. All right, if there's no more questions, we'd like to move on and invite Martin Shields up to talk about the election of directors.
They have prepared a script for me to follow here tonight, but I have observed something I think everyone else has. Shannon has been with us for less than a year, but what I have observed, Shannon has an open door policy. He will meet with you if you have a question. He will correspond with you. He will talk with you on the phone, and he will give you a frank, honest answer. And sometimes it may not be what you want to hear, but Shannon has been a good inspiration for our community and our organization. Now for my script. Election of directors. The bylaws of Henry County REMC call for a process to place names in nomination for a director. An incumbent director must notify the RMC of his intent or her intent to be a candidate by December 28th of the previous year. All incumbent directors in the districts up for election have provided notice in writing that they wish to stand for the election, and that was done prior to December 28th. Secondly, in January, a newsletter and also a special mailing to the members in the 4 districts electing directors. The members were notified that if they wish to become a candidate for a director, that they must file a petition with the signature of 30 members from their districts by February 28th. There were no petitions submitted, therefore the following incumbents are candidates for re-election of directors. District 3, that is Gerald or Bud Shelton. District 6 is Ron Thompson. District 9 is Don Sloan, and District 11 is Larry Brayton. So, because all candidates are unopposed, I would accept a motion to elect all candidates by acclamation. Is there such a motion? Do I hear a second? Those in favor, may I hear aye? Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.
All right. I think we are on to unfinished business, Wayne. We're right here, and they're waiting for that one.
Okay. The records indicate that we have no unfinished business to bring before the membership at this time, and the chair has no new business. Does anyone have any new business that may properly come before the membership? Okay. Before we have the drawing for the prizes, I would like to thank the members of attendance tonight. It was a little different than usual annual meeting, and I do apologize for the food line being kind of congested at the one period there. Also, I'd like to thank Lara Sullivan and the annual meeting committee who managed and planned the annual meeting, and all those in the staff and employees that worked hard to put this program together tonight. Also would like to show my thanks to our entertainment tonight. I thought they'd done a tremendous job. And at this time, we will have the drawing for the prizes. Mr. Wayne Juster.
Do we have who? Okay, for starters, I'm going to need an assistant. Would you be willing to come up here and assist this evening? Okay, our first drawing will be for a $50 billing credit. Go ahead and roll this around and, double impact. There you go. Three, 6, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1. Our next drawing will be for $25 fund money. 3, 6, 1, 3, 8, 1, 0. 3, 6, 1, 3, 8, 1, 0. Next drawing will be for a $25 Kroger gift card. 3, 6, 1, 3, 9, 4, 5. Next drawing will be for a Walmart $25 gift card. 3, 6, 1, 2, 6, 9, 9. Next drawing will be for a $25 Rural King gift card. 3, 6, 1, 2, 5, 4, 6. Next will be a $25 Bob Evans gift card. 3, 6, 1, 2, 6, 7, 2. We have a $50 billing credit. 3, 6, 1, 2, 5, 8, 5. Up. Next, we have $25 fund money. 3, 6, 1, 2, 6, 4, 1. We have spices donated by Brownstown Electric. 3, 6, 1, 3, 9, 2, 1. We have a $25 gift card donated by United Utility Supply. 3, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. We have a $50 billing credit. 3, 6, 1, 3, 9, 4, 2. We have $25 fund money. 3, 6, 1, 2, 4, 9, 3. I have a $25 Kroger gift card. 3, 6, 1, 2, 5, 7, 6. We have a $25 Walmart gift card, 36124474. We have a $25 Rural King gift card, 36125596. We have a $25 Bob Evans gift card, 36132829. We have a $50 billing credit, 36133936. And the last one we have is $25 fund money, 361260. And here you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, before we adjourn, I would like to also thank the church here at Middletown, the Church of the Nazarenes, for hosting the meeting tonight. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye, please. Thank you.